In the darkest corners of human history, few organizations are as feared and despised as the notorious Gestapo. Today, we're diving into the chilling world of Nazi Germany's secret police and uncovering the brutal methods they used to instill terror and suppress dissent. The notorious Gestapo, an abbreviation for the German term Geheime Staatspolizei, served as the Nazi regime's covert police force. Nearly 8 decades after World War II, the mere mention of the Gestapo can still send shivers down one's spine. There's a justifiable explanation for this lingering fear. Countless individuals who were captured by the Gestapo vanished without a trace, often ending up in prisons or concentration camps. Operating with unfathomable power, the Gestapo essentially functioned as a law unto themselves, bypassing the German judicial system entirely. Gestapo agents had free rein to arrest, search homes, inflict physical harm, and even commit murder. While not every individual detained by the Gestapo faced imprisonment, torture, or execution, a significant number did. The Gestapo Department 4B4 was responsible for orchestrating the Holocaust, further solidifying the organization's fearsome reputation. Prior to the full-scale persecution of Jews and the Holocaust in 1935, the Gestapo had already established a name for themselves. Employing a wide array of brutal tactics such as beatings, electric shocks, and psychological torture, the Gestapo reveled in their infamy and used it to instill terror in the hearts of their adversaries. Join us at History Insight, where we explore the hidden corners of human history. In today's episode, we uncover the dark and chilling world of the Gestapo, one of the most infamous organizations in history. We'll delve into their interrogation and torture methods, shedding light on the harrowing experiences of Nazi Germany's victims. The primary objective of the Gestapo was to quash any opposition to the Nazi regime. To accomplish this, they relied on surveillance, suppression, and intimidation tactics to keep the population under control. Their methods of interrogation and torture were nothing short of barbaric, aimed at extracting information and eliciting confessions from those they deemed enemies. The Verstärkte Verhör, or enhanced interrogation, was one such technique that struck terror into the hearts of those captured by the Gestapo. This method involved a series of inhumane and excruciating techniques designed to break the spirit and body of the prisoner. Sleep deprivation, starvation, and exposure to extreme temperatures were among the tactics employed to weaken the victim's physical and mental states. Physical torture was also commonplace, with the Gestapo using a variety of instruments such as a strack bank, a stretching rack, and the Eibenstand, one-legged stand, to inflict unimaginable pain on their victims. The stretching rack, for example, involved strapping a prisoner to a table and slowly pulling their limbs apart, causing severe pain and potential dislocation. The shadow of the Gestapo looms large in our collective memory, a chilling reminder of the depths of human cruelty. The one-legged stand demanded that prisoners balance on a single leg for an extended duration, resulting in muscle cramps, fatigue, and eventual collapse. To amplify the suffering, these techniques were often combined with beatings and electric shocks, coercing confessions for the detainees. Water-based torture was also widely employed in Gestapo interrogations. The Wasseralter, or water torture, entailed submerging a prisoner's head underwater until they neared drowning, only to rescue them and repeat the process. This technique induced extreme terror and anxiety, ultimately crushing the detainee's spirit. Another variant, the Schlossfalter, or hose torture, involved forcing water into a prisoner's throat until their stomach swelled, followed by punches to the abdomen, resulting in intense pain and vomiting. Gestapo interrogators excelled at psychological manipulation. Prisoners were often subjected to mock executions, wherein they were blindfolded and led to believe they were about to be executed, only to be spared at the 11th hour. This method, known as Scheinrichtung, aimed to shatter the prisoner's resolve and instill a profound sense of helplessness and despair. Secret state police forces, regardless of the era or location, 1890s Russia, the Soviet Union in 1940, China in 1962, 1973, or 2023 Iran, or countless other countries before and since, are rarely on the side of the people. These clandestine organizations are established to eliminate enemies of the state, whether real or imagined. Despite the numerous secret police forces that have menaced their citizens throughout history, one stands out for its reputation, even though it existed for only 12 years: the Gestapo. In the years leading up to and during World War II, numerous films depicting Nazi Germany were released. Many of these movies, including the first Indiana Jones installment, featured Gestapo agents who embodied a sinister stereotype. Indeed, this stereotype was rooted in historical truth. The quintessential Gestapo image consisted of a long trench coat, a hat, a Nazi Party lapel pin, and sometimes small round glasses. This menacing appearance was intended to instill fear in the German population. While not working undercover, many Gestapo agents donned the trench coat, hat, and lapel pin. Those who required eyewear likely wore small round glasses, possibly influenced by Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS and the Gestapo's parent organization, who also wore them. Although Himmler is the most recognized figure associated with the Gestapo, he functioned more as a supervisor than a direct leader. We'll delve into Himmler's story shortly. Germany's unification only occurred in 1871, following centuries of fragmentation into smaller states. As the German territories entered the 1800s, the number of individual states dwindled, with Prussia emerging as the most powerful and ultimately becoming the focal point of the newly established nation of Germany. From 1864 to 1871, Prussia and its smaller German allies vanquished Denmark, Austria, and France, along with their respective German allies. In 1871, the Prussian Emperor, Kaiser Wilhelm I, was declared the German king. Prussia, a highly disciplined and militaristic state, imposed restrictions on individual and political freedoms upon unifying with other German territories. Prussia, particularly its capital Berlin, did not embody the essence of a liberal Western nation. The Prussian secret police maintained control over political opposition to the monarchy. Even after Germany's defeat in World War I and Kaiser Wilhelm II's abdication, the Prussian secret police persisted in monitoring individuals and groups perceived as threats to the social and political order. During the late 1920s and early 1930s, each German state had its own secret police tasked with surveilling extremist movements from both the right and left, which were widespread in the wake of World War I and throughout the early years of the Great Depression. This was especially true in Prussia, the nucleus of German power, where Nazis and communists frequently engaged in violent clashes. The communists and other left-wing parties, such as the Social Democrats, were believed to have betrayed Germany during the 1918 Versailles Treaty negotiations. Police forces in Berlin and other German cities were populated with individuals harboring animosity towards communists, Social Democrats, and various groups perceived as threats to the established order, including artists, intellectuals, homosexuals, and Jews. Police forces in most nations, including the United States, have traditionally exhibited conservative inclinations. Historically, police have demonstrated their commitment to enforcing laws, regardless of how oppressive or draconian they may be, as they are responsible for law enforcement, not lawmaking. Amid the tumultuous 1920s and early 1930s, prior to Hitler's ascent to power, the police were infiltrated by ultra-conservative officers and personnel, eagerly anticipating the opportunity to target the so-called November criminals, those accused of betraying Germany in 1918 and jeopardizing the nation's conservative way of life. This sentiment was particularly strong in Prussia. Upon Hitler's rise to power in January 1933, he appointed his trusted confidant, World War I flying ace Hermann Göring, as head of the Prussian secret police. In a short span of time, Göring, collaborating closely with SS chief Heinrich Himmler, seized total control over the Prussian police, leading the organization down a path of notoriety. On February 27, 1933, just 1 month after Hitler's appointment as chancellor, the German parliament's Reichstag building was engulfed in flames. Göring and Hitler immediately declared, without a comprehensive investigation, that the fire had been ignited by the communists. Within days of the Reichstag fire, Hitler urged the Reichstag to pass the Enabling Act, a perilous component of the German constitution that granted emergency powers to the chancellor, allowing him to rule by decree. These powers, intended to be temporary, were never relinquished by Hitler and the Nazis, and secret state police was integral to maintaining this power. In late 1933, Göring persuaded Hitler to unify all the state's secret police forces into one entity, the Gestapo. By early 1934, Göring transferred control of the Gestapo to Heinrich Himmler, the leader of the notorious SS, Hitler's personal bodyguard, and an organization that had already established itself as a parallel police force. Hitler was initially reluctant to grant this authority to Himmler. However, Himmler and his right-hand man, Reinhard Heydrich, had already taken control of secret police forces in all other German states except Prussia, and it seemed logical for Hitler to allow Himmler to take control of that as well. Himmler, although not physically appealing or charismatic, was an exceptional organizer and utterly ruthless, making him well-suited for leading a secret police force. Himmler joined the Nazi Party in 1923 and participated in the infamous Beer Hall Putsch, an attempted coup by Hitler and his followers in Munich. By 1928, Himmler's attention to detail, ruthlessness, and dedication to the Nazi Party and Hitler were acknowledged, and he became the Reichsfuhrer SS, the head of the entire SS. Himmler was instrumental in compiling files on all real and potential enemies of the Nazis. Before the Nazis rose to power, he used his own men and informants within various police forces in German states and major cities to gather information. As the Nazis gained more power through intimidation, threats, and blackmail, Himmler had access to information on millions of people. Anti-Semitism was ingrained in the Nazi Party from its early days as a political movement in the 1920s. Nonetheless, German anti-Semitism had a long history. Although not as violent or oppressive as in Eastern European countries, it was still prevalent. Over the years, the secret police monitored Germany's Jewish population. This task was not as challenging as it might appear. Although German Jews were culturally integrated, they mainly associated with each other and resided in the same neighborhoods. Many Jewish congregations maintained organized lists of their members for various purposes. Within months of Himmler assuming control of the Gestapo, the targeting and persecution of Jews intensified. The Nazis possessed extensive information on Germany's 700,000 Jews, including their names, addresses, and businesses. While Himmler was the overall head of the SS, which ultimately made him the chief of the Gestapo, by 1934, the SS had become a nationwide organization with various functions. Himmler appointed Reinhard Heydrich as the head of the Gestapo, replacing Göring's friend Rudolf Diels. Heydrich's name remains notorious even decades after his death at the hands of the Czech resistance. He not only established the Gestapo's evil reputation, but was also assigned the task of organizing the Holocaust by Himmler. There were rumors that Heydrich had Jewish ancestry, which were circulated by his enemies within the Nazi Party in Germany. However, investigations conducted during and after the war concluded that these rumors were unfounded. Heydrich's ruthlessness and malevolence were well known. Himmler even worried that Heydrich might replace him as the head of the SS. Hitler himself, known for his uncompromising nature, respected Heydrich, referring to him as the man with the iron heart. The Gestapo's image of agents wearing leather coats, hats, and glasses became notorious and was intentionally used to instill fear. However, the Gestapo's actions went far beyond their intimidating appearance. The agency played a significant role in the Holocaust. One of its departments, Office 4B4, was responsible for organizing the deportation of Jews to concentration and extermination camps. Heydrich's power increased in 1939 and 1940 when he became the head of the Reichssicherheitsamt, Reich Main Security Office, which controlled not only the Gestapo but also other police forces. Heydrich's authority extended to occupied Europe as he led the security service, investigating enemies of the state within Germany and working against foreign governments and their agents. By 1942, Heydrich was not only the head of the Reich security services, but also the deputy Reich protector of Bohemia and Moravia. In this role, he ordered the Gestapo to arrest thousands of people believed to be enemies of the state. Under the leadership of Heydrich and Himmler, the Gestapo carried out widespread surveillance, arrests, and persecution, particularly targeting Jews and other groups deemed threats to the Nazi regime. The agency played a central role in enforcing the policies of the Nazi regime and the implementation of the Holocaust. Being considered a potential enemy by the Gestapo indeed meant that your life and the lives of those close to you were threatened based on the assumption that you might oppose the government in the future. After Heydrich's death, Heinrich Himmler, a career policeman, took over the Gestapo. Himmler was ruthless and intelligent, and his name became strongly associated with the Gestapo. Despite extensive efforts by intelligence agencies and Nazi hunters, Himmler managed to evade capture after the war. In 2013, it was determined that Himmler had died in the last days of the war at Luftwaffe headquarters in Berlin. Ernst Kaltenbrunner, Himmler's successor, as the head of the Reichssicherheitsamt, Reich Main Security Office, was captured after the war and put on trial at the Nuremberg War Crimes Trial. He was found guilty of various crimes, including crimes against humanity, and was executed. In post-war East Germany, the Gestapo was succeeded by the Stasi, the East German security police. Some former Gestapo agents were allowed to join the Stasi, continuing their use of torture and oppressive tactics. The infamous Gestapo headquarters in Berlin has been replaced by a museum, but some of its torture cells, which were small and oppressive, are preserved to educate visitors about the evils of the Nazi regime. The legacy of the Gestapo serves as a reminder of the brutality and disregard for human rights exhibited by authoritarian regimes. It is crucial to study and remember the atrocities committed by the Gestapo and other similar organizations to prevent history from repeating itself and to promote the values of democracy, human rights, and individual freedom.